Good afternoon, and welcome to Central Connecticut State University. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the many accomplishments of Dr. Miguel Cardona, the United States Secretary of Education and a CCSU alumnus, of whom we are very, very proud. I am so pleased that we are able to host this presentation live on our campus. And I thank the Alumni Association for working so hard to make it happen. Our guest list is a bit shorter this year due to the health and safety concerns, but I think we can all agree that even smaller gatherings are a great improvement over online meetings. I don't know if you agree with me. Typically, the Alumni Association presents its Distinguished Alumni Service Award, among others, in June. But pandemic conditions and the scheduling challenges they created changed the usual plan. As you know, Dr. Cardona's calendar has been quite full since his nomination last December. So when we found a rare date this December that worked for everyone, we seized the opportunity. We are all eager to honor Dr. Cardona, and shortly you will hear from Alumni Association President Velma Walters, who will present the Distinguished Alumni Service Award to him with past President Richard Donovan. Secretary Cardona has said that education can be the great equalizer, and he has made it his mission to cultivate such equity. First for students in Meriden, then for those across the entire state of Connecticut, and now for all school children in the United States. We agree with Secretary Cardona, and at Central we tell our students that higher education is a sure path to upward social mobility and job satisfaction. Academic success, of course, is the first step on that path, but there is much to be said about the college experience. The smallest encounter on a university campus can change the course of a student's life. Whether it's a kind word of support, a new idea learned in class, or the personal connections we make along the way. From those encounters, students start to think in terms of possibility. They start to dream and make plans and find a place in the world that is meaningful to them. Education took Secretary Cardona all the way to Washington, D.C. His journey from unsure college student to a presidential appointee will no doubt broaden the scope of possibility for many students, especially our own. We are fortunate and proud to continue working with Secretary Cardona on educational initiative he established as State Commissioner of Education. Thanks to his leadership, current and future CCSU students are finding jobs and gaining experience in education through programs like Next Gen Educators and Educators Rising. I know our students will make us proud and uphold our reputation as the state's destination institution for aspiring educators. Perhaps we'll see another Blue Devil become Education Secretary in the future. I could go on for some time about Secretary Cardona's many accomplishments as an educator, but of course there are a few others here who are ready to celebrate them too. Our next speaker is well known throughout the state of Connecticut and on Capitol Hill. Hill. Like Dr. Cardona, he is a firm believer in educational equity for students of all ages. Please help me welcome Senator Richard Blumenthal to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President Toro. Thank you for your leadership, your courage, and strength in helping to make Central really one of the great success stories in American education. I'm always excited when I come here, as I did for the last commencement and commencements before that one, and how wonderful it was, even on that blazing hot day, to be together again in person, and thank you for making it possible. I'm really honored to be among the staff and the faculty, the alumni. Professor Garcia, your wonderful artwork inspires us. I'm told that this area, before the renovation, was actually the loading dock. So I'm not going to try to draw any lessons from what that symbolizes, but I'm particularly honored to be with the Secretary's family who are here today, and longtime friends, and I admire their public service greatly as well. Let me just say, you know, when I introduced Secretary Cardona, now Secretary Cardona, to the United States Senate for his confirmation hearing, I said that he has shown there are no limits to the American dream. And truly, for the students here, he is a son of Connecticut, he's a son of Meriden, he's a son of Central. And of course, he's a son of great citizens of our country. And he has not only been an educator, he's been a teacher. He teaches by example. He leads by example. And in the time that he's been Secretary of Education, I've been so proud to hear my colleagues and others in Washington, D.C. talk about how engaged he is. And I saw it just moments ago with students, members of LASSO, showing them his life story and how much it means to them in laying a path, in providing a vision, in his courage and strength, but also in how he has really lived the American dream. One of the students asked what kind of oversight there's going to be about all of the federal money that is going into our roads and bridges, and yes, hopefully our classrooms, our school buildings, and transportation enabling students to get to those classrooms. And he and I encourage them to tell us what they're seeing and hearing, as I would encourage every one of you, because that's the way we know whether this stuff is working, whether Connecticut is getting its fair share. And I know that the Secretary will assure that Connecticut gets its fair share of this investment in the future. I regard him as a partner. I'm proud to call him a friend. He is so richly deserving of this award. I thank the alumni of this wonderful institution for recognizing his excellence, his contribution, all he's done for Connecticut and for our country. So congratulations, Mr. Secretary. I apologize. I'm going to have to go to another event, but I wanted to be here just to say thank you for your service and all you've done for Connecticut and education across the country. Thank you.
And now, it's my pleasure to invite Belma Walters and Rick Donovan to present the award.
Thank you, President Toro. Good evening, everyone. I just want to take a minute to make sure everybody understands that I 100% back up the Alumni Association. They are the most hardest, dedicated, elected volunteers you'll ever see. They're not only generous with their time, but they're also generous with their resources, the resources that help us to achieve the mission of the association as well as the mission of the university. So with that said, before we move on to the remainder of our award ceremony, I would just like to recognize those board members that are in the room right now. Just please stand for a moment so you can be recognized. I'd like to start with Attorney Christine Sullivan. Bob Brancato. Dr. Peter Rosa. Also joining us tonight is Charles Jones, Jr., a member of the Alumni Awards Distinguished Alumni Services Award, and Samuel Iziari, recipient of the 2021 Alumni Community Service Award. And lastly, Rich Wisniak, who was the recipient of the 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award. I want to say thank you to all of you for your service. And with this, I will introduce Vilma Walters.
Thank you, Rick. You can call this a wardrobe malfunction. Oh, geez. Okay, there we go. Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing our honoree for the Distinguished Alumni Award, Dr. Miguel Cardona, U.S. Secretary of Education. The CCSU Alumni Association could not be happier to celebrate and recognize the accomplishments of the outstanding contribution of Dr. Cardona. You will hear me use the word distinguished a lot, but it's very fitting. It is very fitting that we present this award in the newly renovated Henry Barnard Hall, named for a New Britain educator at a university that began at the New Britain Normal School. Like Henry Barnard, Dr. Cardona was also a principal. Prior to becoming a principal, Dr. Cardona was an elementary school teacher in his hometown of Meriden, Connecticut. He became a principal at the age of 27 and was the youngest principal in the state. His distinguished achievements led him to becoming assistant superintendent. In 2019, he was appointed as the Connecticut Commissioner of Education by Governor Lamont. Dr. Cardona is a big proponent of diversity and inclusion, and he helped schools, districts across our state reach out to all students, focusing on those that needed the most attention, including those in bilingual and bicultural education. His progressive and insightful leadership continued during the COVID-19 pandemic, as we were all challenged to reimagine shifting from interpersonal learning to mixed forms of teaching and learning, including distance learning, and most importantly, providing access to all communities. Connecticut students experience schools differently under Dr. Cardona's calm and supportive leadership. helping educators and families and children adjust to new reality. Schools were thoughtfully opened in 2020, in September of 2020, in new settings with new opportunities, with focus on equity and social and emotional needs, with strong cooperation of the many groups involved. Dr. Cardona was appointed as U.S. Secretary of Education by President Joe Biden in 2021. He has brought his thoughtful and child-centered educational leadership to the nation, helping millions of teachers and students make good use of new resources and change concepts of schools. Central has a reputation of preparing educators to meet shifting personal and societal needs. Dr. Cardona has taken those skills as a passionate leader, and the CCSU Alumni Association is extremely proud to have you, Dr. Cardona, as an advocate of our nation's children in ensuring that systematic changes will have a lasting impact on the national level for generations. Thank you for the work that you do. Dr. Cardona, a model of a caring and optimistic educator. Thank you for the work as a distinguished public servant. Dr. Miguel Cardona, the Central Connecticut State University 2021 Distinguished Alumni.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. And thank you to the Alumni Association. What an honor to receive this and to be here with you. This afternoon, I'm privileged with the honor to accept the Distinguished Alumni Award from CCSU, my alma mater, with so many good friends and family here gathered today. I want to thank Dr. Zulma Toro, a leader whom I greatly respect. About 3 or 4 years ago, as assistant superintendent in Meriden, I reached out to Dr. Toro as an alum, as an educator in Connecticut, someone who cared about the same things she cared about. I reached out to her. I said, maybe I'll get a meeting with her. She accepted that meeting. And we sat down in your office, and we talked about how to help the educators in Connecticut, how to help the students here. I was an assistant superintendent then. And I remember, as commissioner and now as secretary of education, the conversations we've had about those same topics. And we're going to continue to work together. I was so happy with her vision then, and I am now. That's the type of leadership Connecticut needs, Dr. Toro. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Terrence Chang, also, for the support. I want to just start off by saying, while this award is special, there's really nothing special about my story. I see myself in each of the students here at Central Connecticut State University. The students at LASO are special. It was so great to meet with them. While there's nothing special about me, my experiences here at Central were very special.
those are some of the moments in my life that are etched in my mind. And I feel like they were like yesterday. Those are the special moments that have shaped who I am today. Moments like my first day here, coming out of a technical high school where I didn't pick classes in high school. Classes were picked for me because I was in shop for half the year. I was a technical high school graduate. So coming here, I didn't know what I was doing. Whatever they gave me, I was, okay, that's where I'll go. And I remember walking around at the student union, like it was yesterday, I was 18 years old, asking random people, does this look about right? I want to be a teacher. I remember DeLoretto Hall sitting I've said this before at a commencement ceremony. I remember sitting at DeLoretto Hall 8 weeks into my freshman year, failing every course. Failing every course and saying, am I cut out for this college thing? And then holding back tears, thinking about the sacrifices my parents made so I could be there. I got myself in gear that day. I got a B in every class that semester, and I didn't get anything less than a B since. That moment, DeLoretto Hall Central shaped me. I remember walking into the dean's office here in this building because I was still not sure which classes to pick, and I literally just knocked on the door, walked in, and said, listen, I want to be a teacher. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. I need help. And he took me under his wing and said, we got you. Soon after that, I remember classes with Dr. Abadiano, Dr. Sider, Dr. Aronson. They taught me the art of teaching. They were tough professors because they had high expectations, because they knew what was needed in the profession. I remember Dr. Howell, Dr. Maxine Howell. She's a black professor, and we had some good conversations. I remember listening to the song, You Must Learn by KRS-One. And I was like, wow, I got to show you this song. We sat in our office, we listened to KRS-One in this building, because that song talked about the contributions of black Americans. Black Americans like Benjamin Banneker, someone who I never heard of. And I said, why am I hearing about Benjamin Banneker through rap music? That's our job as teachers. I remember that like yesterday. I remember Professor Gallagher, fine arts professor, Sean Gallagher. I took his courses in fine arts and drawing, and we used to go to Stanley Quarter Park. We used to walk to Stanley Quarter Park and paint. And that taught me to see the beauty around me. I remember Dr. Ronnie Fernandez, may he rest in peace. He taught a course called Puerto Rico, and I just signed up for it. That taught me a lot about myself. Ronnie taught me a lot about being unapologetic about your identity and biculturalism. I remember taking a course with Dr. Williams in Copernicus Hall, a special education course in Copernicus Hall. You do the math. But in Dr. Williams' class, I remember he said something that stuck with me. And as a principal, as a superintendent, as a commissioner, as now secretary, I've said this before. I learned this in Williams' class. It was a quote by Livy, the Roman historian. He said, we fear something in proportion to our ignorance of it. I learned that here at Central. I remember LASO meetings where I got my dose of cultural affirmation and cultural pride. I told those students, the reason why I wanted to meet with them is because I wanted to tell them, savor those moments. Those are special moments where you feel connected. As a first-generation college student myself, I felt grounded. I felt seen. I felt like a sense of community. Now, you could call me an EOP wannabe, because I never really went into the program. But I was part of CONCAT. I was a counselor great experience where I got to serve other students. And I got to see CJ, a legend on campus. You know, one thing I love about CJ is he's the man, right? And he's proud about his love for chocolate chip cookies. And he's not afraid of it. And I love that. While I never was a part of EOP, I watched from a distance and I admired. And to this day, I still do. Awilda. My memories of Awilda, running around campus, being everyone's like mom and just making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. I learned a lot about, still is. I learned a lot about service, staying true to who you are, and opening paths for others from you. I learned that at Central. I remember, like my junior year, I was invited to a dinner here at Central with then President Judd. And I was honored to be invited to this president's luncheon. It was a luncheon, not a dinner. President's luncheon where we were talking. And the president, at one point in that meeting, introduced me. And I'm like, wow, he knows my name? And he called me big man on campus. I was like, whoa, the president of the university knows who I am? Called me. Remember, 3-4 years before that, I didn't know if I was cut out for this. 8 weeks into this school, I was failing. Now I got the president call me big man on campus. Central. I was growing. I think it was that same meeting, a guy by the name of Pete Rosa was in attendance, and the conversation at that meeting was talking about how we can address inequities and what the challenges we face are. He stood up and he said in his booming voice, we have to take into account racism. And I paused there. You may not remember that, Pete. That moment shaped me more than I can even explain. My passion for equity has deep roots that extend far back to that moment when you stood up and you had the courage in that room to say, we must talk about racism. I've never said this to you. That moment was impactful to me as a leader. You were 10 feet tall to me that day. And from that day, I have you on the highest pedestal as a leader. Your last name is Rosa. My mother's maiden name is Rosa, so I always felt like, I think we're family. And the reality is, I don't even want to check, because if we're not, I'm going to be really mad. So we're blood, Rosa, we're blood. This award is special to me because my parents are here. One of my proudest moments in my life was 9 months ago today. 9 months ago today was my first day on the job, my first full day. And if you recall, I was fortunate to have traveled with the First Lady to Meriden, Connecticut. One of my proudest moments was when the First Lady got to meet my parents. That was special. They sacrificed so much so that I could be here today. It's also special, this award, because my wife and my kids are here. Another one of my proudest moments was 9 months ago yesterday, when I was sworn in as Secretary of Education and my children were able to meet the first woman vice president of the United States. I felt like as a father, I did something good. For the first 18 years, Mami and Papi, until 93, you raised me and you taught me. You sacrificed your plans for mine. From 1998, when I met Marissa, until now, Marissa, Angelito, who was born in 2004, Celine in 2006, I learn and I grow with you every day. You provide my purpose. But for those 4 years in between, those critical and formative years, from 1993 to 1997, Central, you raised me. You shaped my growth. not only as a student, but as a man, as a future father, and as Secretary of Education. To the teachers in the room, never doubt the impact you have on the lives of your students and on the future of our country. While I'm honored to receive the Distinguished Alumni Award, the true honor goes to those who have shaped my life, my parents, my wife and kids, and my extended family here at CCSU. So as secretary, as I navigate going from 47% of our schools open across the country in March to over 99% of our schools safely reopened today, or as I push to grant more than $12 billion in college loan forgiveness in the last 6 months, or move the $130 billion in American Rescue Plan funds to pre-K-12 schools, and $40 billion for colleges, for reopening and reimagining, know that these decisions are shaped by that same kid that walked these hallways at Barnard Hall as a first-generation college student who was trying to find himself. And as I look toward the future, I see the Build Back Better framework that will provide a strong foundation for children through universal access to pre-kindergarten for 3- and 4-year-olds. I see a future with increased funding for minority-serving institutions, a future with increases in Pell Grants to increase the number of students that have access to college. Students like me who are forging new paths, not only for themselves, but for future generations. Or for students like our dreamers, who are working twice as hard to chase that American dream. I can promise you that in education, our brightest days are ahead of us. And as I humbly serve as our nation's 12th Secretary of Education, I can share with pride that I will forever be a Blue Devil. Thank you for the award.
When Secretary Cardona was appointed to President Biden's cabinet, believe it or not, I was in a small town in Puerto Rico, next door to his parents' hometown of Aguada. And I understand the hometown of Pete Rosa as well. When that happened, I started thinking about, as many Latinos, how we can celebrate this historical moment. As the first Latina president of this university, it was extremely meaningful for me. That moment was unique, not only because I am Latina, but I am the president of Central Connecticut State University. And I wanted to find a unique way to mark the occasion. So I turned to another Hispanic male, Professor Vicente Garcia. And using the Secretary's own words from his acceptance speech as inspiration, Professor Garcia have done an outstanding job to mark this unique occasion. Professor Garcia teaches ceramics at CCSU, and he employs his expertise to create an installation that shares Secretary Cardona's uplifting words with others. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to share with you the work that Professor Garcia did to celebrate the appointment of Secretary Cardona. We will be installing these pieces in the first floor of this building. In addition to this, and in a moment, Professor Garcia will explain what this means, we have two pieces that are part of the collection that Secretary Cardona will take with him to Washington, D.C. to have in his office. And now it's my pleasure to invite Professor Garcia to the podium to share with us his work and the creative process he went through.
Thank you for the opportunity to create this work. I remember Dr. Toro coming and said, Vicente, I want you to do this. And I thought, okay. I took my normal approach to what I do with everything. You know, three things came to mind. Number one is, what do you love to do? What do I love to do, right? Number two, how can I be creative in whatever it is that I make? And number three, how can I connect Secretary Cardona to CCSU and to whatever it is that I create? So that part was pretty easy, normal way, standard way of operating. So then I started thinking, the first part, I love to create with clay. I love to create ceramic vessels. So when it comes to the vessel, you know, why do I love it? This has stood the test of time, all these centuries, right? And the other thing that I like about it is that we refer to it as the way we do to the body, right? Whenever we're having critiques, talking about them, we say the foot, the belly, the shoulder, the neck, the rim. So I like that, and I thought, perfect. Make something that he can take, put on his desk at White House, in his office. But then I thought, wait a minute, what if he doesn't have any room? What if he cannot put a pedestal somewhere in his office? What if his desk has too much other stuff in it? And I thought, all right, he's got to be able to find a wall somewhere. So I made a wall piece. So the forms became pretty simple. The wall piece being round, I like the circle, continuous rhythm, continuous motion, flowing, advancing, progressing, you know. So I like what it symbolizes in the way that I see it. That part was easy. The next part is, how can I be creative in whatever it is that I do? I took what I was researching at the time, a lot of chemistry, a lot of science going into what I was playing with. I'm taking stuff straight off the periodic table. Yep, a lot of science in the ceramics lab, right? Taking my elements, taking my compounds, putting them together, learning on how one element could neutralize another, learning how one element could create the color blue, right? Playing with it. So the nice thing about when I was thinking about those components and thinking about the connection that I would make, I remembered hearing him say this phrase, this motivational comment that we often use, that I use, right? That I use when I'm talking sometimes. As much as I like to say it out loud, I kind of prefer the way he says it when he presents it. So, if you could read.
Adelante, niño.
And then the other part, you know what the other part is.
No te quede atrás. No te quede atrás. No te des atrás.
Right? So then the Nino would be responding, right? And he would be saying,
IT boy. IT boy.
I thought, how perfect is that, right? I got this concept, this idea where I can take and I can chemically print things onto a ceramic vessel using ceramic techniques. I could paint on it, I could draw it. It's not about that. It's about how can I do it with the ceramic process, right? But how cool is it to take his words that are motivations that are going to help, whether you're a child, whether you're a student, right? I use them on myself. When I hear him saying, I think, I got to go back to the studio, right? How am I going to continue to reach? Where am I going to go with this? It's just that move. So I came up with these. The blue, right? When he sees blue devils, CCSU, you're going to remember us, right? There's that connection. The two I found that work beautifully together, right? I was thinking one or the other, but now I see that they kind of have to go together. As an artist, I know that we don't always get it right the first time. I made a vase, I made a second vase, and allowing for, for choices. I made a disc, and then I went crazy with the discs. I went crazy with the circles. Different fonts, adjusting the color, different rhythms, different prints on it, and I thought, I like this, right? So as you can see, I loved it. So the first one, make sure that you love what I'm doing, right, and go crazy with it. The once completed, I called President Toro. I said, I got the work for you to review. I got the work for you to select from. She comes over. She looks at everything. I like this face. She looks at all the discs. I like this disc. And I said, good. I'm glad she liked at least one of them, right? But then she says, but I want all of them. I want us to have a vase here at Central. I want him to have one over there. I want him to have a disc, but then I want all those installed somewhere here on campus. And as you've heard, it's been decided where they're going to go. And I thought, good. So that became an installation. When we look at that installation, it's organized in that way. It's going to change a little bit once it goes to the big place. This is how I see it. You talked about your being here, right? This is you when you were here. Can you guys see this little guy back here? The little tiny one right here, actually. Right? You were describing your whole, like you come in, right? You come in, we're little, but the good thing is that you were already rolling. You were already in a rhythm. You were already in that mental mode of learning who you wanted to become. So you start out, you're little, right? We continuously grow. Now, normally we think, you go to a university, I see this as a university experience. It's like, it's not a straight shot where it's a cone that we get little and then we get there, right? No, it's not like that. You had your moments. Everybody has their moments, right? You start, you grow, you learn, you get bigger, you understand, right? But you're not really alone, right? Sometimes we do get a little smaller. Sometimes we do take a little dip. The good thing here in Central, CCSU, you have sometimes, you have your mentors. They're right there. They're bigger than you, but they're right there. They're not waiting for you. They're not telling you, adelante, vámonos. No, they're saying, aquí estoy. Right there. Kind of helping you. You're there. You grow. You take a little dip. There's that support system, right? You continue. And eventually, you have arrived, but eventually you arrive. This is going to be installed. I hope that when it gets installed, you guys have the opportunity to visit and check it out. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
As I mentioned, Secretary Cardona will be taking with him these two pieces. Once the installation is finished, there will be information about Secretary Cardona, who served as the inspiration for the exhibit and the installation, and there will be information about the artist and the connection between the two of them, because they are two male Hispanic leaders. The Central family is very proud of Secretary Cardona's many accomplishments, a sentiment we share with his wonderful family who took the time to join us today. Thank you all for making today's ceremony even more special. With supporters like Secretary Cardona, higher education will become an option for more and more students in our country. And we'll be here to welcome them and to do our part to educate the state and the country's next generation of leaders. Thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed the event and have a wonderful evening.